The Arizona Cardinals get absolutely embarrassed again at home to an NFC West opponent. What does it mean for the grand scheme of things, though? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Listen, all you got to do is go to FanDuel, and you're going to be right in the middle of the action this season. Visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So the Cardinals lose by $1 million. Are the injuries to blame, or is it just an excuse? We'll discuss that in the final segment. The coaching staff status. This is now taking center stage with Kyler Murray already out for the year, and this being a lost season. What does it mean for the coaches moving forward? But by and large, the Cardinals got beat by a much better team, and they got embarrassed in ways that a bad team would get embarrassed when they were playing against a much better team. That's just what it is. I'm not even talking about how good Puka Nacua is, okay? I'm going to remove that. There are very few wide receivers in this league where it's like, well, can't stop that. And it was definitely a, can't stop that moment for the 60 minutes the Cardinals played the Rams on Sunday. But, there are some themes that we've continued to see with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback, with the rush attack the way it is, and just overall, the Cardinals being prepared to play like they play hard, but nothing comes of it. This is one of the 3 blowouts that we've experienced with this team, NFC West centric, since their bye week. They've been outscored 130-61 by the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams in 3 of the last 5 weeks. 3 teams on a meteoric rise, and 1 team that you didn't think could be falling deeper behind, but they're falling further and further behind. And it's not great in year 3 of a rebuild when you put all the money and all the resources on the defensive side of the ball this offseason, and they've given up 40 burgers each of the last 3 times they've played an NFC West opponent. So those are just factual things. There's a lot that goes into it. Of course, you've got injuries abound. And for those that have listened to this show for more than 5 seconds know that I don't use injuries as an excuse ever. It's like everybody's injured. The 49ers have been injured for the last decade, and they still win. So I think there's one glaring thing that's kind of been the Achilles heel in a sense of the Cardinals having, competent offensive output, which then begs the question, if there's no competency on offense with a balance of attack, then the defense is on their heels the whole game because everybody knows the Cardinals are throwing the ball 50 times a game. But the most glaring example of that I've seen of late, and it's been varying degrees of bad, but Jacoby Brissett was the leading rusher for the Cardinals last week. The sitting duck quarterback was the leading rusher for the Cardinals. Okay, so I looked at all the possessions the Cardinals had. They had 11 possessions. 8 of them comprised of 5 plays or less. 8 of them comprised of 5 plays or less. 5 of those 8, after the Cardinals either turned the ball over or punted, the Rams scored a touchdown. So 70% of the drives the Cardinals had were 5 plays or less yesterday. And 60 some odd percent of those 5 plays or less drives resulted in the following drive for the Rams ending in a touchdown. So that's what you call a complete shift where the Cardinals defense is on their heels because the offense can't move the ball, because they can't run the ball, because they can't run the ball. And I didn't just glitch out there. I said it twice on purpose. So if there's one thing that I had to pick out of all of the Travis mockery that we've witnessed this year, especially over the last couple months, is that they can't run the ball, and it changes everything. It changes the chemical makeup of what the Cardinals are doing. It changes the offense. and I've said this, I'll continue to say it, regardless of what you think about Drew Petzing and should be gone, should be back, should be gone, whatever. I'm on your side. We're not going to argue about it. I can guarantee you his game plan is not throwing the ball 50 times with Jacoby Brissett. I can guarantee you that's what they don't want to do. That's not to say that Jacoby can't do it and be somewhat efficient. He's been efficient. He really hasn't turned the ball over that much with how much he's had to throw the ball. But the Cardinals' inability to have sustained drives because they can't run the ball, physically cannot run the ball. I guess mentally also. I don't know. Is that weird? We didn't run the ball physically well, but mentally it was there. No. No. You just can't sustain drives. You're going to throw the ball 50 times a game. And I've, go back and look at the tape, what I've said. I'm like, you got to throw it. You have to lean into this. And they do, but that doesn't mean it's ideal. That doesn't mean Drew Petzing does this and wants to do this. They've been a run-first team since he came over, regardless of who was at quarterback, when Kyler Murray was out and then, last year. They ran the rock, and they ran it effectively. But when you have James Conner and Trey Benson hurt and Amari DiMercato hurt, it's like Zonovan Knight's been a practice squad guy for a long time. Michael Carter hasn't made a roster outside of the Cardinals since being, drafted by the Jets years ago. And the offensive line is weaker than it's been. I didn't expect to do this as the Cardinals can't run the ball so they can't win thing. There's obviously so many more things that are going on that are, dumping into the blame pie of why the Cardinals have lost so many games. But if you can't run the ball in the NFL, you're not going to win. And if you can't run the ball in the NFL, you got to punt more. You have shorter drives, and then the defense gets tired. The defense is unable to produce. And I'll tell you what, we got to have a Nick Rallis conversation. I'll do that later in the week. You can hairs on fire everything. JG's got to go. Drew Petzing's got to go. Nick Rallis got to go. They all got to go. Monty Osford and those three got to go. Got to draft the quarterback in the top 5. All of these conversations are going to dilute more and more as we end this season. Have that Black Monday to see actually what happens. And then look towards free agency in the draft. It's very difficult to see the forest through the trees because the forest is on fire right now. It's very difficult to see anything. Because, it's just, it's so deflating. It's so many people have put so much work, fans, you guys were excited all the way at the end of the 2022 season. Cool, fresh start. Let's see what can happen here. And then I'm not even talking about media, but every day, it's just bringing content. And this is not I had somebody comment saying it must be tough to host Locked On Cardinals. I mean, yeah, it'd be better if they won games, but I love doing this every day. This is what I've done for 15 plus years, man. This is my life. This is my baby. And regardless if we agree or not, I wouldn't change this for the world getting to talk to you for 30 minutes a day. So, yeah, but a lot of people have put a lot of, thought, content, love of the game, love of the team into this. And then now you're sitting here are they further back now than they were at the end of the 2022 season? Which I think is a no. Okay. It's hard to be rational at this point while also seeing that the forest is on fire. So again, this is very fluid. A lot of things probably won't happen as soon as people would like, but begs the question, what will happen to this coaching staff, if anything? We'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before you give it to the person. So there's no, okay, so here's the frame, and here are the instructions on how to do it. You probably can download the app, and you can you do USB and all that stuff. You can do all the work ahead of time, and then instant smiles are bred. Because say you want to give this gift to your grandparents or your parents who may be getting a little bit older, who aren't as akin to technology, and they don't want to necessarily go through the legwork just to have a finished product. They'd rather have that. Aura Frames has you covered for endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app, and you add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. For a limited time, save on that perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get in, the time for the holidays. It's right around the corner, man. Support the show by letting them know we sent you. Terms and conditions apply. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. You know the drill. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now, take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Cardinals with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. The link will be in the description. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it bigger this year. We want to have more and more access. I love, communicating with people via the insider program. This is just a massive step up from there, and I'm super excited to be here for even more content for you. So here's the thing, yuck, right? Like, can we just be adults and just yuck? Cardinals lose by 1 million. This is the first time this year where the Cardinals really got stomped on. Like, I know that they lost to Seattle by a lot, and those two scoop and scores really tipped it, where it's like, oh man, this is a bloodbath. But this is the first game this year where, when the Cardinals went 3 and out, or when there was a turnover, it was a deep bomb for a touchdown the next play. Or Blake Corum, scrambling for 50 yards and a touchdown the next play after the possession changed. And that happened twice with Puka and Blake Corum. It's like, oh man. I tweeted out that, and I've said this a few times this year, but they look different every time. It's like, this is a loss that could get coaches fired. When it comes down to the question at hand, what will happen, it's a lot more complex than maybe it needs to be, but let's break down both sides. So the easy one first is you could fire all of them. Like, truly, at this point, Nick Rallis has, again, I will go more in depth about it. It's difficult, which I will infuse in the final segment, about injuries, where it's like, okay, you're running back with JJ because everybody's been hurt. You're running back with Nick Rallis because he hasn't had a full deck to work with the entire year. Drew Petzing, hasn't had Kyler Murray. They haven't had a run game. The offensive line's been bad. But that's the easy one. It's like, okay, get rid of all of them. Okay, that's fine. So let's entertain that. And this isn't me being sarcastic. This is me taking that side of the aisle. Now what? It's difficult to find good coaches. Okay. I'm not saying that what the Cardinals have is great, even good, especially because, look at the win-loss record. Look at what's happened this year, irrespective of injuries or otherwise. This has been an embarrassing season. And I was one. And listen, I said the Cardinals if you said the Cardinals would win 4 or 5 games and Jonathan Gannon would be fired, or the Cardinals would win 10 or 11 and Jonathan Gannon would win Coach of the Year, I would take the latter. I said it the entire offseason because I am an idiot. No, because I was like, listen, concrete things have happened to lend you to think that the more positive outcome would happen as opposed to the other side. And I stand by that rationally at the time. I do. Because, again, they added a lot to this roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball this season. And then now this is where we are at 3-10. Watching this team internally combust, and everything's on fire. So you fire everybody. Rationally speaking, sure, passes the rational test. 100%. I'm not going to push back on that at all. Okay? Now, let's look at the other side. You could 1,000%, and I'm on the other side now, because I feel like if you have an argument for anything, you should be able to argue the other side equally as well as arguing your own to strengthen your point. Let's debate one-on-one. Everybody's been hurt the entire year, so you can run it back. Especially with Jonathan Gannon. Specifically with Jonathan Gannon. Everybody's been hurt the entire year. And that's a rational look at just the head coach. Is it unfair that the coordinators don't get to jump in on that parade? Kind of, but no. Their contracts are also up. JG's got one left. I don't think a lame duck head coach is a bad thing. I also don't think Michael Bidwell is going to want to pay another head coach when you've got two on the payroll already. I think what Michael Bidwell did with Cliff Kingsbury was a learning process for him with the extension given and then firing before it even came into play, before it was even live. So everybody was hurt. You had a quarterback change midseason. Quarterback has been hurt the entire year. And regardless of what you think about Kyler Murray or Jacoby Brissett, whatever it is, that's not what this conversation is. The offensive line has been poor. The defense had their first overall pick, or the 16th first round pick, miss months of the season early. He's played 2 games and he's been hurt since. Will Johnson's been out. Garrett Williams was on IR. Max Melton's missed time. David Taylor Demerson's missed time. Mac Wilson's been on IR. Did I say Mac Wilson already? No. It's been bad. So I could 100% rationally back up the idea of bringing Jonathan Gannon back for his last year because everybody's been hurt. And while that sounds like an excuse, it's a reason. There's a delineation between the two, and this is it. I don't care how much other teams get hurt. Obviously, you don't want anybody ever get hurt. That's my disclaimer I give once every few weeks. But the Cardinals have the most players on IR in the NFL. They've got the most difficult schedule, or top 3. It'll probably go down as the most difficult by the end of the season. And everybody's hurt. So, sure, that's enough for me to run it back with JG. He hasn't lost the locker room. They're getting beat by teams who are significantly better than them. They've competed for 10 of the 13 games. 10 of the 13 games are one-score games. And then they just got absolutely boat raced by 3 division opponents, which isn't great, obviously. Like these aren't excuses for why you bring them back. Having everybody hurt and having on top of having the most difficult schedule, that part is not an excuse. That's a happenstance fact that gets compounded because the Cardinals haven't had a full roster. I mean, James Conner and Trey Benson going down, that's a death nail for this offense who wants to run the ball, So that's the other side. Bringing Petzing back. The only thing I could say, and listen, let's just have a rational. I'm talking about both sides here. He hasn't been able to run the offense he's wanted to run, and he's wanted to call because they can't run the ball. Nick Morales has had injuries abound, and through the first 7 weeks, they were giving up, or the first 5 weeks, they were giving up 19 points a game. Something changed. And even though they're giving up in the mid-20s, that's not a fireable offense. These last 3 40 burgers, not great. But the biggest point from either side that is the biggest indictment on the idea that they should come back is coaches who got fired for far less. Head coaches, coordinators, all of it. So many head coaches, so many coordinators have been fired for far better production than what these 3 have done since they've joined. Will that matter? I don't know, but it's the truth. And it'll be fascinating to see what happens over the next handful of months. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. With that said, are injuries to blame, or is it just an excuse? We'll discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest. Getting tickets is usually the hardest part. And that's where the Game Time app is super clutch, man. Finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging tickets. And with Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. All you do, you pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views, prices included, everything up front. So there's no last-second hike at the end. You know exactly what you're going to pay right when you click on the tickets that you want to buy. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out because, as, group play happens and then you start to get sooner and closer, it's like, oh, okay, they won. Alert, boom, let's go buy those tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets with Game Time, every match, concert, or event. All of it. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on action as action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in right away at any moment. Player props, update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It just keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bet all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. You know the drill. So the Cardinals lose by a lot. Bill Murray would be proud. Groundhog Day. So I don't think I've done this segment before because I like to shy away from it. I like to talk about the stories that are happening with the players that are out there. At some point, when you see impact player after impact player after impact player go on IR, it's like, okay, how much of this season can you actually look at rationally and say, this would have happened if everybody was healthy? Or if 80% of the top impact players were healthy. That's the struggle. I mean, I think what happened yesterday was going to happen no matter what. And that may not be fair. Maybe if Mac Wilson was there and Adrian Taylor-Demerson were there and, the James Conner and Trey Benson were healthy and Marv was playing, I think it would have been a closer game. I don't think the Cardinals are getting blown out by 30. And that's the struggle. It's like, okay, so you got a handful more games here. And Trey Benson probably won't see the field again. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that window's closing. So they may put him on ice for the rest of the year. Who knows with Marv? So is this the team you're rolling out the rest of the year? If so, how much of what you watch for the last month can actually be taken with any sort of, severity or any sort of concrete, for data purposes on what they should do moving forward? Now you got the other side of, when the Cardinals were healthy, they were losing one-score games. So that's coaching. Sure. I'll eat that all day long. I agree. But how much can you gauge Drew Petzing from this year with all the injuries? He had a Drew Petzing moment yesterday. When the Rams score, there's 2.5 minutes left. The Cardinals go 3 and out. Then the Rams come down and score again. And then the Rams get the ball, and then they come down and score again to start the second half. It was just like, man, the conservative nature of what happened before the 2-minute warning was insane to me. Insane. But when you look at how long impact guys have been out, Marv's missed a bunch of games. Jonah Williams on our, he's a mention because he was a starter to start the season, even though he wasn't great when he did play. Will Hernandez has been out. A couple of really important dudes on defense. Cody Simon's been fine. Like, he's not been a reason why they've been losing games. But Mac Wilson, I think people underestimate Mac Wilson. Garrett Williams being out for as long as he was, Will Johnson being out. The Cardinals got steamrolled when both of those guys are out. It's like, and Will Johnson is hitting that rookie wall. It happens. Denzel Burke actually played okay yesterday. Like, the threading the needle throws that Matthew Stafford somehow gets home to Puka Nacua just blows my mind. There were a couple of them. It was the long deep ball touchdown, which was Will Johnson stumbled and then got beat and almost made a play. But there was a couple huge chunk gains to Puka Nacua where Denzel Burke was in his uniform and it still got through. It was crazy. Are injuries to blame, or is it just an excuse? Yes. Like, going back to the first segment, the Cardinals can't run the ball. Their two best running backs are hurt. Like, that is a factual statement. That's not an excuse. That's not a reason. That's just a fact. So if you can't run the ball, you're going to drop back 50 times. Not ideal. The Cardinals have been able to almost – they've almost won some games that way. This is the first time in my 9 seasons hosting this show and 15 years in sports media, going on 16, crazy, that I would say injuries are to blame for a large chunk of what's happening this year. I'm not saying all of it. I'm not saying the coaching's been good and they'd be 10-3 if everybody was healthy in like a Madden uneasy vacuum where nobody could get hurt. But I think if they had their full cast, this would be exponentially different, especially centralized around James Conner and Trey Benson. And Kyler Murray probably. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Well, it's easy to say now because Kyler's not. That's not what this segment's about. I think the injuries cast a wide cloud that's just blocking all the potential sunshine this season could have had. As a part of it. Not the only reason, maybe not even the biggest reason. But they've been decimated by injuries starting in week 2. And it's just not something that can be ignored when you look at their 3-10 record. Again, not the only reason by any stretch. But a main character? Yeah, for sure. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.